Computer. Good morning and welcome to Raise the Bar, the Sky High and Fly Jump Camps podcast. My name is Troy Haynes and my guest this morning is Jonina Brinson. Hi, Jonina.
Hello.
Jonina is joining us from Europe in Washington, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so we were just talking, just getting to meet here a second ago, and I saw Jonina's work a little bit on her Instagram page, and just touched base with her on it. I'm always looking for drills and looking for athletes and stuff that they do in their training and different coaches and trainers, and I'm trying to get nutritionists on here. I'm trying to get, sports psychologists, anybody and anyone that has any kind of an association to, jumping, track and field performance. It doesn't have to be limited to that, obviously, but that's kind of the point of view we have here. And I saw a unique drill by I'm assuming, and your coach working with you with your jumpers. And that's what got me going. So, Jonina, give us a little bit about your background. How did you get going in track and field? Were you did you do more than one sport in high school when you started? How early did you start? I know there's a lot of questions all at once.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm originally from Georgia, and growing up, I was all about sports. Like my dad and mom, they would always take me outside and just kind of show me different sports and kind of let me experience at the recreational level. So in high school, I did 5 sports. It was track and field, basketball, volleyball, softball, and then tennis.
Wow.
And so coming out of high school, it's like, oh, I want to do basketball, but track and field kind of pulled me a little bit harder because, it's more team, but also individual aspect. And so it had life lessons in it. So if I didn't give my all at practice, I wasn't going to get the marks I wanted. And that kind of just helped me kind of go through life with the positive self-talk and knowing what's needed to kind of get the job done. So out of high school, I went to Bruton Parker, but then I transferred to University of Mobile with Coach Andy Canagita, and he actually helped me get into coaching because there I was doing long jump, triple jump, high jump, and 100, 200, some sprints. So kind of the sprinter jumper crossover. And I actually started loving coaching because I was the only transfer. Everyone else was a freshman or first year. And so I kind of had to step up and just help coach the team. And so with that, I just kind of grew a passion for it. And so from there, graduated and then went to Bethune-Cookman, and that kind of started my grad assistant coaching. And then I was originally working with multis, and then I was able to go to open jumps with Coach Tariq Price. And then from there, I was like, okay, my grad assistant position is over. I need to kind of find my way into the coaching world. Like now it's time to look for an assistant position. And so I'd always told myself I wanted to become a head, but I didn't know when the timing would be. And so moved to Iowa. Yes, the little Southern girl made the big jump across. So moved to Iowa. I was a assistant for about 3 months, and then the head coach left. And then I quickly threw my name in. I think I was interim for about a month and a half, and then I was named the head track and field coach. And so at first I was working with jumps, multi, sprints, hurdles, because, the head coach had left. I was the assistant, and then I was able to bring Karan Stewart in. And then we kind of helped the team blossom. I got my first year. She was a first year, and she won long jump, and that was amazing. And then from there, Coach Aaron Tucker called me, and now I'm at Eastern. So here I coach the multis and the open jumps. I do write the workouts for pole vault as well as jab, but it's been amazing so far.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot of work in a short time. You didn't waste any time getting going on the track and field career. We're coming at it kind of from different angles. I think I'm thinking back. I didn't realize that I would have this much passion for coaching track and field, and I actually did start it relatively quickly after I graduated. I didn't officially do a graduate coaching thing, but I was kind of helping some of the decathletes right after I finished, and then I started coaching at a junior college, but everything was just kind of like I was just going along. and we've had this talk before here on Raise the Bar, but I was still trying to compete, still trying to get to the trials. That was one of my goals. And so I was coaching. I wasn't doing anything with my degree. My mom and my family were probably pulling their hair out a little bit because I was just that athlete that I didn't really know how to go about where I was trying to go. It was like, okay, so I had odd jobs and this coaching stipend at the junior college, which was nothing. I mean, like $2,500 for the season, and so I'm waiting tables and living in an apartment, and still training. And the roadmap isn't really that clear over here. So I took a long ways about that, and it really was my high jumping career. Once that was over, I started to get a real job. See, and that's where I could pick myself. I mean, in a way, I took the cheaper route, or the not cheaper, the safer route, and went, I'm going to go to teaching, which, paid the bills better. But, I didn't take the long road down coaching, and so I admire you for taking that step and just kind of sticking by your guns. And, slow, it looks like you pretty quickly have risen the ranks. Are you still, you got a taste of the head coaching job there at Iowa. Now you're an assistant again. Are you still looking for that prime, head coach job somewhere that comes along?
Eventually, yes, because I was at Buena Vista University. It's a D3. And so it kind of helped going to the Division I level because I knew I needed that scholarship opportunity. And so it was at different levels. And right now I'm enjoying the assistant position, but eventually I will like to get back to that head. But to me, it's just all helping the student athletes and kind of helping them develop into the individuals they want to be. So I'm able to do that now. So probably a few more years down the road, I'll start going back and applying for a head coach position.
Is there, this is just a curiosity. We're talking University of Houston, big Houston, right? Is where you're at now? Is that where? Okay, so
no, I'm at Eastern Washington University.
How did I get Houston out of there? What was I heard Houston. I'm crack. Okay. So Eastern Washington. All right. Yeah. My brain, for some reason, I heard Houston and I was like, I want to talk about Tom Telez. Like, I haven't ever gotten the opportunity to meet him. So, okay. Never mind that. Wipe that out. My brain has been known to hear its own. I don't think I'm schizophrenic yet, but okay. So how did you get this incredibly diverse background already? I'm looking at it, I was a jumper and I've had exposure to all the jumps because my coach was a good jumps coach. And then I was fortunate enough to watch Anthony Curran coach pole vault all the time I was at UCLA. And so I won't say that I picked up a lot. I found it fascinating and interesting, and I'm always watching. And then also got to watch the great Art Venegas coach his thrower, shot and disc, with the great John Brenner, winning shot and disc in '84, getting ready to go to the Olympics. And I've seen John Smith work his magic in the sprints. So I've seen a lot of great stuff, but I've never really gotten to that point where I'm like, I think I'm going to try to do all of these. It sounds like you've got sprinters, jumpers, like, you're working with the multis. That's a pretty good background, but I guess that makes sense if you want to be a head coach, right?
I think like my approach came from basically my mentors. Like when I was at University of Mobile, we didn't have a track. And so we kind of had to improvise on basically long jump. And then I remember we went to a high school one day just so we can actually get to the pit. So it was a lot of drills, hitting position work. When I was at Bethune-Cookman, we had a small track. I think it was like 150, but we had all the field events. And Coach Price was telling me, as a jump coach, you can't do everything by the book. You're going to have to do some drills that force them into the position that's going to have them thinking, Coach, what is wrong with you? And so when I moved up to Iowa at Buena Vista University, we had the facilities. It was just certain things that I needed for drills. And so I had the indoor track, the outdoor track, but it was still make it your own to have the athletes be forced into the position that they're needing to fill. And so I kind of took that here with me to Eastern. My group is very young on the women's side. They're all first years. My men are mostly juniors and seniors. And so with the women, I was just like, dial in. I'm going to have you do some stuff that you've never seen before. And you're going to think, Coach, you are crazy. But once you feel this position, you're going to be like, okay, I got it. Some of my drills challenge the mentality because I don't want it to just feel like, okay, you're doing it right. I want you to have that breakthrough, knowing that you conquered this drill and that it's more from it than just feeling the correct position. So some of them that I post is just for them to see their progress. In practice, I video everything so they can see progress. If we do a drill, sometimes I don't name them just because I'll look at their film and I'm like, okay, I need them to hit this position. What drill am I going to create to help them get this position? And so that's kind of how you saw the lean away one. My girls, they were having trouble kind of standing their curve. And of course, I did the U runs, the circle runs, and everything. And I was like, I need to break it down even more.
Yes.
And so I was like, all right, ladies, trust it. We're about to do something new. And they was like, oh my gosh, coach, here we go. So Jake, he's my volunteer coach. We have like PVC pipes in our weight room. And I asked, can I borrow one of those in a band? And I was like, basically, this is going to show you the takeoff feature. So Jake stood on the inside and he held the band down with resistance. That's forcing them to lean away because if it wasn't resistance, they can just kind of stand up if they want. And so with him pulling, it kind of reinforced, okay, stay away and have that outside shoulder leading. And so it was a 2-step that we finished. And then I haven't posted this one yet, but the next drill that I added was I just put a long line of piece of tape going from their takeoff step to show their curve, just so they will know that last step is supposed to be on the same line. And so we did the drill like that, but it also, you have reinforced the last step, kind of travel the same curve. So they're benefiting from it. I mean, slow progress. So we're still going from it. But yeah, a lot of my drills are just kind of like looking at film, realizing we need to do something to help us reinforce this position. And that's how we kind of got there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. When I saw that, because what you're talking about is the quintessential problem, the learning to run a curve. Because I keep telling my kids, I go, look, basketball players and volleyball players generally run in straight lines and they jump straight up. I go, number one, they don't have to worry about twisting backwards and landing on their heads, right? They're going to jump straight up and then they're going to come down and land on both feet, and as a basketball player, the last thing in the world you want is somebody coming and cut your legs out from under you while you're in the air, because you don't want to land your back on the hardwood. So it's like, I go, you understand, we're talking about a completely different skill set here. When you run at the bar, you have 2 leans. Not only do you lean back, I try to teach heel toe, like you would to even a long jump or a triple jump, right? You get the heel toe. I call it flaps up, lean back, and get air, because you need your head behind your foot, not in front or over when you get to heel strike. So okay, let's lean back. But I go, but also you're getting the added benefit of the curve, which is leaning you away from the bar and adds quite a bit to your pop, but you have to utilize it, right? Because if you don't, if you're leaning over here and then right before takeoff, you just bail, you flip your shoulders, flip the script and go that way, you've lost that advantage. And now you're back to just one lean. And if you're flipping sideways as you do that, that lean's not going to help you as much either. So I go, you're almost creating your own worst enemy if you're running a fast curve and leaning away, but then flying right across. Right. So really interested to see that particular aspect, because I've been saying for a long time now, I think a lot of that is, I get some athletes, when you show them the curve, they'll just lean at the hips and they'll try to bend sideways. And I'm like, nah, I go, you're going to be leaning at your ankles. Your whole body is going to be shifted over here. You got these wonderful paddles at the bottom of your legs that adjust to all surfaces, and they're going to lean with you. You're going to run on your edges a little bit, but you're really be over here. So I'm looking forward to trying that. I have I've done the same thing. I've named drills just because they know what it is, like when I do what I call the 0-step drill, I always have them
Mhm.
stand there with their plant foot on the ground already
Mhm.
and leaning back, and the more I teach it, it's funny, I learn stuff even now
Mhm.
from that drill. And I don't even know where that one came from because my coach used to have us do backovers. The famous
Mhm.
Baru Elias, who was a coach out here at a junior college, Long Beach City College, and he would have us always do backovers. Then it was 1, 3, 5, working your way back out. Whenever you started missing 2 or 3 times in a row at a height, you go, okay, 2 more steps, and you should go right
Mhm.
over. So, okay. I mean, I use all those things to this day. I don't even think about it. That's just the way we do stuff. So, with the zero drill, you were talking
Mhm.
about positions and leaning away. And I'm like, okay, this is what we're going to do out of this. And I keep finding interesting stuff out of it because you'll see right away when they don't understand their position. Because I get a jumper who's
Mhm.
leaning, I go, just put that foot on the ground, lean back. And then I'll stand there and hold
Yeah.
them up. I go, lean on me. I want you to lean all the way over here. Now go through that jump motion. So you attacked it from the other side. I had them leaning
Mhm.
on me, jumping this way. I've actually had them run around the pit backwards and pretend the bar was over here and then jump
Mhm.
away from the imaginary pit into the pit sideways. Like I go, are you really going to go that direction? No, but I want you
Mhm.
to feel like you're over there. Um, I have an interesting
Mhm.
question for you, Coach. I do a lot of video analysis, so it's something we started, pushing on my site. But I do something that when I'm looking at their jumping, I've noticed I like to measure that side lean angle. So I'll drop a vertical down, and I have an analyzing thing that'll tell me, oh, they're at say 30 degrees, and I'll take that shot straight down the bar, so I know it's pretty much on. It might not be
Mhm.
perfect, but it's a decent representation of the sideways lean. And then what I've noticed, and this is harder to quantify because 2 steps before, let's say they're coming my way and I was a left footer, so I see everything left-handed anyway. They're coming to the bar,
Mhm.
2 steps before on their left leg, right? The left leg's planted and that's their jumplet. But 2 steps before takeoff, I see these pretty nice positions, right? I don't know if you've noticed this, but I'll see them. I'm like, hey, this is looking pretty good here. You've dropped into your curve, everything's good, and I'll measure that. And the only problem with that is it's not quite lined up. It's like it's farther back
Mhm.
on the curve, so I'm not looking dead down the line at it as far as the circle's going, like not at a tangent. You know what I mean? To where they're planting their foot. So I look over here, you can still see they're here, and then lots of times on that last step, they're coming out, and so that's something I've been using when I'm
Mhm.
analyzing film. I'll just go, hey, look at this, your, your not your penultimate, but your last, second to last really jump step on your whatever your takeoff foot is, and compare the lean
Mhm.
from one to the other,
Yeah.
and notice that they're
Mhm.
they're coming out. They're really coming out. Any other tricks you have up your sleeves there, Coach? What are
Yeah.
some other ideas? It doesn't have to just be high jump. Some of your
Yeah.
favorite.
Going back to high jump, one that I do, just to kind of show them how you were saying the pressure and the lean back is, I take 2 hurdles and I lay them down. And again, my long line of tape is right there. And so I have them hold the hurdles with their hand and I have them get into that lean back with the hip displacement position. And so that's just kind of like a hold it there. And I kind of tell them, do you feel this? And I'm like, drive up from there, because it's one video I'm trying to find it. It was a coach and he actually did the pogo stick drill where he threw the pogo stick at a certain angle, it bounced over the high jump. And so I'm consistently telling them about the angles. And so with them holding the 2 hurdles, that kind of gives them the support. So just kind of like how you mentioned, it just kind of gets me off of them so they feel it on their own. And so they're holding the hurdles. They have, let's say she's a left foot jumper. She has the left foot out in front, that right behind her, and she's able to feel the position that she's in. And then with her feet being on the tape, she sees exactly the correct takeoff position. And I was like, all right, drive up from that. And that's when I kind of got behind her, just gave her a little assistance pushing up, because it's hard to do that from a standstill. But that's one that we did yesterday, and that kind of helped her a little bit. Some other drills. For okay, Bobby, he is one of my top jumpers. He's actually doing a double hitch now. So he actually was a hitch kicker and he would hitch and go into the pike. And we noticed that we were just kind of losing a lot of airtime. And so I was like, all right, Bobby, it was early in indoor season. I was like, let's try something. And so I put two bungees up. And I
Hmm.
said, the first bungee is where your first hitch kick, that right leg should come down, step on the bungee. You're going to cycle the left through. And then the second bungee, that right should hit again. And then we're going to pike. And so I had the two bungees as well as kind of an extra high jump mat over the pit. So it will force him to stay in the air, that pike. And we had been doing that and it definitely helped him. He went from jumping 7.21. That was his PR, and he finished with the 7.4 right now in meters.
Hmm.
So he's definitely grown with that. Triple jump to kind of teach the first phase. I have like a little small PC pipe and you just step
Hmm.
over it. So if you're a left foot jumper, your left foot is on the board, you're taking that right knee up in a block position, you're stepping on top of it, and then you're stepping over. So you
Hmm.
can just kind of see the position work because in triple jump, that first phase, your chest is supposed to be tall. And so day one, I showed them the difference of kicking in the chest fall versus stepping down and the chest is tall. And then we kind of, it's not bad. I mean, we do a lot. We do a lot different, but for the most part, they love it. They love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love outside the box thinking. It's like that creativity. I don't know if it worked the same way with you. I was forced into a little bit, like you said, lack of facilities is something that has become kind of an epidemic out here. Tons of tracks and high schools and everything. But then with the global epidemic, coronavirus, then we were shut down and you couldn't go anywhere. You couldn't get to any of these campuses and their facilities. They were just, you're gonna die if you walked onto campus and trained. So it was like, we didn't do anything. So we were going to parks. You're taking little, hurdles and cones, right, and doing all your running drills and skips and
Mhm.
bounds and running up and down. If you could find any steps anywhere, anything that resembled a 5 or 6 step
Mhm.
sequence or just crazy, right? So it really does force you to
Yeah.
you know to step outside and go, okay, because it's one thing to come up with a great contraption, it's another one to just go, okay, I've been given all
Mhm.
nothing here, what do I do with it? So oh my gosh, that's annoying, but it does stretch you. I was wondering how this worked with you. I had a jumper a couple years back, Jack Wiseman, who he went to state meet for me here in California and came in third. He won the Masters meet here, which was the qualifying in the southern section area down here at 6'10". So he went from 6'6" as a junior to 6'10" his senior year. He's having a great year. We worked really hard, but most people, and one of the first super awesome technical glitches of all time, that was like a 5 minute reshuffle. Okay. Sorry about that. I don't know. Mine just came up and gave me a big spinning wheel. So I shut it down and converted that recording, but I'm sure I can put it back together on CapCut later. Technical difficulties we've overcome. So where were we anyway? You were right in the middle of telling us a story. I know it's hard to
um,
you left off.
yeah, you were telling me about your he went from six
Oh,
six
right,
to
right, right. I was telling a story. Geez. Okay. I'm getting so old, my brain. Anyway, the whole idea of you know, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but I have a pretty big ego as an athlete, and I'm always like, okay, I know how this works, and I can get this to you, and I've been actually teaching now since I was, in my early 30s, so it's only shorter career than some of my colleagues, but still going on 26, 27 years, something like that. And you start to learn that, not everybody learns the same way, right? There's some people
Mhm.
that hear you, some people watch you. We learned about all those different styles from hearing, seeing, writing, kinesthetics. There's people that completely are visually oriented and watch everything, and there's other ones when you're talking to them, you can see them looking around and they're really not interested in what you're saying, right? They're going to do it by feel or something else, and you're like, okay, how do I get this, to this athlete? So I had Jack, and I'd seen Jack jump for a couple of years. I tried to recruit him as a freshman at a UCLA camp that I was invited to. 6'3", wiry, skinny kid, hockey, full of ability. I loved him. I'm like, this kid's got the perfect mentality. He's ready to go. I tried to recruit him, and of course he was like, nah, I'm good. Like, I got this covered. And so I saw him, later on, and he'd already jumped 6'3" as a freshman, came to the camp. Then his sophomore year, he really struggled. And he worked with somebody else, and they didn't quite see eye to eye. And then he was a little gun shy about hiring on with somebody else, so junior year, sophomore and junior went by, and I'd see him at big meets. I go, hey Jack, hey coach, how's it going? And just couldn't get him into the fold. And then I finally had a jumper that I trained that beat him. And then he was like, okay, if this guy can get, this one kid to beat me, then I guess we'll sign on. And what I saw in him all the time was he was too close to the bar, always too close. So I don't know. Jack really forced me to study this, because it's always been easy for me to see, you just can see a parabola, right? You see somebody go up, and you're like, oh, they hooked it with their calves. Their hips were up over the bar, but they're at least a foot behind the bar. I'm like, you're just too close. You need to get farther out. Well, that doesn't always fix it. Sometimes you can just move someone farther out, and that's it. And I love that because it's so simple, but it doesn't usually work that way. For whatever reason, it seems like jumpers take off where they take off because that's where they've always taken off, and they've never been told to change. And I've come to realize that once you've established a pattern in your brain, it's really, really hard to change for a lot of people, for all of us. So it's like, I tell everybody, I go, your brain's an amazing supercomputer. It calculates forces and angles and this and that and the direction of the sun and the wind and all this stuff you're not even aware of. And when you run up and plant your foot, your brain can tell you right away, like, okay, I know he told you to leave your knee up and ride it up like it's an elevator and then get off the bar, but we're too close right now. So we're just going to have to ditch that plan and go right into layout immediately, because there's no other way they can make the bar. And you're like, I get it. And then you're like, okay, I got to get you farther out. When you move them, if you are able to get them farther out, many times they just start bailing harder instead of going up. And you're like, okay, that's not working. So, Jack was just like the poster child for that, because he would take off and his height would be just unbelievable, way over. He's kicking it off with his heels. He's hooking it with his calves. And I'm like, Jack, we got to get farther out. So put a piece of tape down on the ground. Tape, no, not even. He would not take off. If anything, he'd take off inside the tape, even closer. Tape's no good. Then we put down a piece of foam. Foam, no problem. Step right on it, over it, whatever. Wasn't going to get any farther out. So I'm like, what am I going to do with this kid? And it's driving me crazy, because I know all I got to do is increase his distance from the bar and he's going to be fine. So finally, I developed a thing I call the roll out the bar drill, which is where I put one bar on the ground right against the standards. And I go, okay, Jack, have at it, dude. Run up and jump. So he comes up and he scissor kicks over 5 feet. Great. And he's way too close where he is. But I said, now I take the bar and I rolled it one revolution away. And I said, now run up. He looks down at the bar and he goes, well, what if I step on the bar? I said, well, if you step on the bar, you'll probably break your ankle.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay. So he runs up and jumps out. And I said, now you got to I said, here's a piece of tape and here's a cone. Use whichever you need, but wherever you're at, you're going to have to keep moving back, because we're going to keep doing this, and so we did the roll the bar out drill, and we kept moving it farther back, and he was still scissor kicking over 5 feet, and he would drive that leg up and ride it. And eventually I got him about like 3.5, 4 feet out, bar sheam out, but it was out. And he kept making the bar, and he fell in love with that drill. And after that, he was like, Coach, can we put the bar down? And I'm like, I go, Jack, it's a great drill, but I said, but we can't do it during the meet. Because you're not going to let us put a bar out there. So,
Mhm.
it's really interesting, both things. Like he forced me to come up with the drill.
Mhm.
And also it taught me so much about sequencing in the high jump. Like it's
Mhm.
always been like, look, straight, curve, takeoff, flight, then lay out. Lay out
Mhm.
last. I said, if your head's already going back and your toe's still on the ground, or you're
Mhm.
up on your toe, but your head's still already back, I go, you're in layout way too early. And I go,
Mhm.
even if that does work on that particular jump, just picture the bar going up.
Yeah.
What happens every time you make a jump, miracle or not? The bar goes up. And now
Mhm.
you're going to have to go faster, be leaning more away, be farther out, and
Mhm.
still, trying to hit vertical. And you and I both know it's harder to hit vertical the faster you're running.
Yeah.
If I'm already struggling hitting vertical at slower speeds, I'm not going to get better at it when I'm going fast, which is why
Yeah.
you move them out, right? Because if they wash
Mhm.
through a little, at least you've got time to get up
Mhm.
to peak height, right?
Yeah.
So I learned all that. I learned about, why they'll ditch their knee drive early. I have people
Mhm.
that just barely get their knee up and across, and they're already throwing their hip down and going.
Mhm.
I'm like, and so I started thinking, well, maybe I'm doing layout work too early, but it
Mhm.
all depends on when you get a jumper. And I'm like, I don't like to leave them without a layout, but I've come to a place now where I'm like, you know what? I don't want to take either the ones that are already really bendy, super flexible
Mhm.
type that really don't know how to jump. I've had a rash of those where they they're so good in their layout position that
Mhm.
it's their go-to move. And I'm like, you know what? I get it. I said, I wished I'd have been that flexible. I didn't have that. I was the rare white guy with hops. So I'm like,
Mhm.
I didn't get into that position. I couldn't have prayed to get into that position. But I
Mhm.
said, the thing that I had going was I learned how to jump and ride that knee all the way up and then fudge the fudge the ending and get away with something. Whereas you have never learned how to jump and you just go into this beautiful position that just clears a lot of stuff for you. But when the
Mhm.
bar goes up, they get into trouble, right?
Yeah.
So like, oh my gosh, sequencing and how long to lead the knee right up and all that stuff. Well,
Yeah.
out of all the events now, Jonina, which one's your favorite? Because you're coaching the jumps, but you said you had sprint experience and all that. So what is the one that you really get excited about?
Yeah. So when I was competing, it was long jump. Now coaching is tied between triple jump and high jump.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I don't know why. And like the funny thing is, I didn't have any triple jumpers in my coaching career until this year.
Mm-hmm.
And so even though I had done it, excuse me, I had never coached it with a one-on-one athlete. And so the athlete Bobby that I'm speaking about, he is a senior. He came back last year to go into grad school. And so he was like, Coach, I went to regionals. I want to go back. And I'm like, listen, I'm gonna be honest. I haven't coached a specific triple jumper, but I have drills. And if you trust me, we're gonna do it. And so when I moved to Eastern, I was already like 4 weeks late because they had started school, they had started the preseason. Luckily, Coach Aaron Tucker, he had all the groups kind of putting them through the training. And so when I got there, I was like, Bobby, I just need you to forget everything you learned and just start fresh with me because I don't want to be having bad habits that we're trying to fix moving forward and that kind of just bump. I was like, just trust me. If we fail, I will definitely take all responsibility on me, but I need full trust. And he was like,
Yeah.
okay, coach, I'm giving you full trust. And so what we found out was he was a good triple jumper, but he didn't know the fundamentals behind it and why we were doing this position. He just knew he didn't need to be on the ground long for contact. And so once we started working on first phase, and then I have an app where it just has a rhythm that goes, and I'm like bound to this rhythm, and it taught him how to hold longer. He's like, Coach, it's too slow. And I'm like, nope, we got to find the rhythm, guy. We got to do it. And so from that, we started going second to third phase. And then we would do 10, 20, 30, where 10 feet out, 20 feet out, 30 feet out, where we would do all drills. Well, first phase, second phase, third phase, just to kind of show him the hold in between and make sure that each phase is consistent. And then first phase, we got it open to about 17, 18 feet. So indoor season, he put up big numbers. His best series was done in New Mexico. He started with the 1575 and then went 15.8. He finished the series with the 15.96, and he went into that meet number 40 something and finished fourth overall. And
Oh,
we was moving. We was gunning for indoor nationals, but it's top 16. He finished top 20 overall. But the best thing out of that was he had never won Big Sky. He was always runner up or third. And we were able to kind of put it together. And because we had been perfecting some of the things that weren't there, we had a great series. He was consistent. He wound up winning with the 15.75, and he was just so excited. And that just kind of built the story of the trust aspect. When you talked about finding certain drills for certain athletes, I'm from the country, so certain part of my slang, my athletes don't understand. And so I was like, one thing, excuse me, sorry. One thing I told myself was, Jill, as a coach, you're going to stay in shape so you can demonstrate, because you're going to have athletes who don't understand you or need to see it done. And so I'll demonstrate, even if I don't do it correct, I'll say, hey, I didn't hit the full position, but did you notice this? Or I'll record it so they can kind of see what's going on. Or I'll try and find a video. I'll ask my mentors to kind of send something. We'll have film sessions. And so with Bobby, we would watch some of his film back. And I'm like, listen, this is the drill that we've been doing. You see this amazing drop step, that first phase, you carried it and everything. With my high jumpers, when I first got them, I like you said, I like to go through series. And the first was, I was like, think about doing a layup. I didn't take them to do layups, but what we did was I had them stand by a wall, and they basically came from a one step, excuse me, and they had to drive their arm up the wall as well as their knee. And so my young ladies, when I asked them, like, what's one problem? They was like, oh, I entered the bar too early. I'm like, okay, well, let's just work simple drive up. And so the power skips wasn't really doing it for them, because I would tell them, hey, drive up rather than travel forward. But it's a little bit harder to just kind of tell your mind to break a habit that you've been doing since middle school.
right,
And so
right.
putting them next to that wall forced them, like, okay, if I don't drive up, I'm going to get hit by this wall. And so
Right.
just standing there and happen to drive your arm up the wall was blocking them from entering early. And so we did that repeatedly. And then we just kind of came back and kind of started working with it. And then with the knee drive, I put 2 bars up. One of them was about 4 feet and the other one was way up there. And I was like, I want you to think about a layup as well as the wall drill we did. The small bar is for your knee to knock it off, hold your knee and get up there. The second one is for your hand to be driving up. No, you may not touch it, but just think about getting that hand up. And so at first I was like, Coach, this is weird. I don't know. And I'm like, all right, this is how it's supposed to look. So I got out there and I did it, and then they felt confident to do it, and then they went and did it, and we progressed from it. And so just started getting them going, you know. I have one young lady who I'm converting her into a multier, and she's never done high jump before. And so I started her with just, I have a mat series where we'll do hip ups to on the ground bridges to fallbacks where you're on the mat, your hands are up, getting used to falling back. And then I used to have a gymnastics block, but I don't. And so how I started teaching her to fall back a little bit more was literally stand on the mat, squat, roll back, put your hands there like you're doing a learner somersault. And she did that. She started going. I'm like, okay, I'm not finna advance you to a full backflip till you're used to doing this. Got her to the bar, literally put the bar up there, and I said, just jump up and fall back. And so started getting her used to fall back. And I'm like, okay, jump up, fall back and pop the hips. And she started doing that. I'm like, okay, now the easiest way that I kind of helped her think about it was when we were little growing up and you wanted to hit a backflip, excuse me, with your friend, you would hold your hands out and tell them, put your foot in there, and you would push them up and the feet will fly out. And so I used that demonstration. I was like, okay, so I put her on the jump ramp, and I was like, this is basically someone holding your foot. You're going to explode up, push the hips, allow the head to fall back, and bring your legs out the same way you would do if someone was holding your foot. And she did it, and she was just like so excited. I'm like, you did it. Like, we're finally teaching her how to high jump, and she was so excited. And so from that we started doing it, and it just kind of helped them. So definitely just kind of going at it at different angles. I always tell them 100% honesty, like, we're going to try new stuff. I'm going to tell you, hey, if I'll do this drill so you can see it. If I don't do it right, I can say, this is the part that I messed up on, but this is how it should look, and just kind of
Mhm.
help them with going through film. But just trying to maximize their potential, just going through film. I know a bunch of times after the track meet, I'll come home and I'm just like sitting and looking at film and like, okay, we got to write this down. I have a little book that when I give them their workouts, it'll just say jump day, but it doesn't say which drill, because I typically get the drills from what we need to fix based off of what we did at the previous meet. So I'll look and I'm like, okay, we weren't really in our curve. Our approach was off. We slowed down in it. So we'll do approach runs. We'll do circle runs. We'll do the new drill that I showed you. For triple jump or long jump, I'll kind of see, okay, we were off in our last two. So we'll do a penultimate step and just kind of meet them where they're at to kind of get
Right.
the drill that's best going to give them that mark.
Yeah. That's so awesome, coach. You got a lot of tools and weapons there, it sounds like. And you're what do you call it? I'm saying, like, you're getting your own. We always talk about people having certain skill sets, right?
Mhm.
And so you're in the business of giving them a better skill set, and then you're kind of creating your new skill sets on the fly, right? So that's why I'm
Mhm.
always so curious. I've been watching, a lot of stuff for a lot of years. To me, Instagram has been, shameless self-plug for Instagram, but it's done so much for me just because I've been able to see stuff. Like, I'm one of those guys. I've been lazy enough. I haven't even gone to. They have these out here. They're called LA 84, and
Mhm.
a friend of mine, great American high jumper Doug Nordquist, who jumped up at Washington State, was a
Mhm.
seven plus jumper there. Then went to the trials in '84.
Mhm.
Made it onto the team with his distant cousin Dwight. Finished fifth in the final, jumped 7.6, I think. At the trials, I think he jumped 7.7. A couple of years later, he jumped 2.36, and he's been a coach. I've been coaching against Doug for a long time. Played golf against him, typical Olympian. Watched him drive it onto a par four one day. I'm just like,
Mhm.
you Olympians, you're so annoying. So he's this great coach, and he's running these awesome curves, and just learning skills, applying them. But I didn't go to those. He was putting on these clinics, and I think I've been to one or two now, and so I don't know what it is, but I have that hunger. That's like getting in the car, driving all the way to this place, sitting down, trying to find a lecture hall where there's somebody that you either haven't heard or you might be interested in. And there's definite returns on it. This Instagram, I've been able to go all over the world. I literally go around the United States and see
Mhm.
what the coaches are doing, and
Mhm.
other countries. I've had people send me videos from India where they're literally running and jumping over cattle in a field
Mhm.
somewhere and saying, "What do you think?" And I'm,
Yeah.
well, that's pretty darn good. That looks like a real tall cow. And
Yeah.
you don't have any shoes and you're on dirt. I'm like, that's amazing. And so I don't know what to say about that. But then other times I'm in one of the European bloc countries and I'm watching a really great bounding drill where I'm like, oh, I get it, and when I see something, I know what it's for. I'm sure
Mhm.
the same thing. I'm like, oh, I know right where I'm going to use that, exactly.
Mhm.
So I'm stealing liberally all the time. That's why I'm always trying to listen in on these trainers, from the knees over toes guy to
Mhm.
any of the speed agility guys. There's a lot
Mhm.
of them right now. I've had a couple on here. I haven't been able to get Adonis Harris.
Mhm.
He was going to do one, and then he backed out on me a couple times. And then I saw he was doing his own podcast, so I get it. And he's got a lot more followers than I do. But yeah, going around and kind of getting to peak,
Mhm.
curtain
Oh
is
yeah.
it's fun. Like, if I'm going to waste an hour looking at the feed, that's pretty much what's coming through because I've got hashtag long jump, high jump, triple jump. So those come by me all the time. And
Mhm.
it's, once I think I just figured out the more that I network, the better. So that's why I try to follow anybody that's a jumper that follows me, I follow them back.
Mhm.
Figure that's just creating a network. So I'm not like playing the game of, hey, I've only got 500 followers and I've got like 800 million. Or I've got 800 million followers, but I'm only following 500. Like, nah,
Mhm.
I want to follow. I don't want to miss something. So if
Yeah.
I see a training jump or a drill or something, I'd rather have that coming by,
Mhm.
than have to go look for it. So pretty.
Definitely. I think that's part of the reason why I made just a jump specific page. Like granted, my jumpers here, I call them flight crew. So take flight. So it's the jumpers, and that's kind of a shindig that we got, but my page is like not private. So anyone in the jump world or in the track and field world, like we can just kind of chat and network. And I did it for exposure for my athletes so they can kind of see stuff, but also like show drills that we're doing for the local high schooler who probably doesn't have a jump coach and is learning off of YouTube. Well, click on the Instagram and here's some more drills you can kind of see. I have some that inbox and like, hey coach, what are you guys looking for? I see your page, and it just kind of let me interact with them, but also interact as well. Like you said, all about networking. We had the track and field convention down last year in December, and I went to a few of the jump synops and I met the Colorado State coaches, and he did this one high jump drill in the pool, and I loved it. Got their number. Every meet we see, we sit down and talk now. And it's just like that drill helped my girls a lot. And so it's all about networking. Saw your page, saw Barb. I was like, yep, following. Let's get this going. And so it's just, I'm not a coach that's going to try and hog drills, because at the end of the day, we all want our athletes to do what is their best given effort. And so if I'm sitting on a lot of knowledge that could help someone else, I don't feel comfortable doing that. So I'm
Yeah.
going to put it out there. So
Yeah.
that's how I see it. We all want to work together to get more people involved in watching track and field, because our events are pretty amazing. So
Right. Yeah, we've also had this discussion many times here on Raise the Bar, and if you've hung around with us long enough on this particular podcast, we've had a couple of technical difficulties. So, just to let you know where we're at, I'm talking with Jonina Brinson, and she's currently the jumps coach at Eastern Washington. Did I have that
yeah.
right? At Eastern Washington, and we're just talking shop. So if you're listening in and you're interested to hearing about all these drills and everything, that's kind of where we've been going. But also this discussion's come up a bunch of times recently, in that we all love our events and we love track and field itself. It's kind of ageless. Like I think Olympics when I think track and field, and the original Olympics was all track and field stuff. They were throwing the disc, they were throwing the javelin, they were running, they were jumping into the sand, and I think they were running around naked for all we know from the old pictures. But it's like, here they are, and it's been around forever, and the
Yeah.
pageantry and everything. I mean, I remember in '84 watching Rayford Johnson walk into the Coliseum, the torchbearer,
Mhm.
UCLA great decathlete, and just a great ambassador for the sport, who unfortunately
Mhm.
just passed away on us a couple of years ago. They just named the track after both him and his wife, which was pretty cool. It's Ducky Drake Stadium, who was one of the coaches there, and I think was the coach of him when he was
Mhm.
competing, and then now named after Rayford. But the majesty, the pageantry, all this great stuff. But here in the United States now, it's like we see it once every 4 years.
Mhm.
And if you lucky, you catch the NC2As, it's on a week or two time delay. You know,
Yeah.
there's no exposure to the sport, and it's you know just not even about the money issue, although it would be nice to see more money start flowing downhill, and get everybody, hardworking coaches like yourselves and me, paid more, like
Mhm.
football coaches, the basketball coaches, the soccer coaches. Pick your sport. I was amazed. I don't know, and this isn't a money numbers thing, trying to figure out what you make, but I, as a teacher, I make a lot more money than I can make right now as a coach. So
Mm,
I look at it and I go, I interviewed for a couple jobs last year, and out here on the coast, and they wanted to pay a part-time position, but
mhm,
5 days a week, 5 hours, whatever a day, blah blah blah. And I'm like, well, first of all, I'm a school teacher. I don't get done till 3. Second,
mhm,
they're offering to pay like $25,000 for all the jumps and the multis, and I'm like, going,
mhm,
that's crazy. I mean, it's not that it's not a doable job, but it's
mhm,
just, you know, you're looking at it going, that's, if you were a student or you're trying to do what you and I are doing as a profession, how are you
mhm.
going to on $25,000? You
Yeah.
have another job. You're almost paying them to coach.
Mhm,
It's
mhm.
like by the time you drive certain places, right? Or it's like we've all got expenses, prices are up on
Yeah.
everything. So, we must love it, right? But it's
Yeah.
like I think the same. I'm like, this is an incredible athletic feats. It's all going on, but we such a terrible, terrible job of marketing and
Mhm,
developing the what this has got going on. When I
mhm,
was in college, it was bigger. But I remember saying even back in the late 80s, early 90s, and we still were cranking out some Olympic gold medalists, and the
mhm,
US men's team was dominant.
mhm.
We won a lot of those medals that the Jamaicans were winning, and Carl Lewis was the man, the 100, the 200 long jump. We had
Yeah.
guys. John Smith was cranking out 400-meter. Steve Lewis wins the gold. Another UCLA athlete friend of mine, Kevin Young, wins the 400-meter hurdles. World
Mhm,
records. Incredible stuff. But yet, none of those guys really is able to make a ton of money out of
Yeah.
that, like you would in any other sport.
Yeah.
And in any other sport, I mean, every other sport.
Mhm.
Why is that? Why are we getting shortchanged?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, we're fighting an uphill battle, Jonina.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I never really understand that because it's like, in track and field, it's so much more. Like some people, the naked eye would look and be like, oh, that's easy. And I'm like, okay, come out here and try it. Like it's
Right.
so much technical work or so much detailed, and it doesn't just take 30 minutes to do it. Like you have to have time and repetition. But I feel like such is just such a grind hard sport that soon once you're in the profession, you just kind of know the pay is going to be the pay. Like sometimes you have to let your passion go over it and
Mm-hmm.
just know that you're in it more so because of the benefit of you're doing something you love, but also that extra benefit of helping student athletes grow in the world. And so sometimes when it comes down to pay, I just tell myself, hey, you get to wake up and do something you love. You're not at this place where you're unhappy. You wake up, you get to impact the young generation, have conversations with them, take them to places of the world that they probably never see, help them hit
Right.
marks that they probably never do. And so that's just kind of how I turn my mind off of it. I'm young, so eventually, if I do need to change professions to make more money, I can do it. But right now, I just know, I mean, I tell myself it's kind of the aspect you're in. You're in a grind hard, get the job done sport where you're going to be doing more work with not the correct pay, but it is what it is. Because if everyone was able to do their passion, some people would probably just want to be a stay-at-home person and just make a certain dollar amount.
Right.
And obviously that can't happen all the time. So I just kind of tell myself, listen, the grind is there, go get the job done and wake up to do what you love. But yeah, track and field is such like a sport that everyone can compete in. And so the revenue should be higher, the pay should be higher because it's a sport that everyone can participate in. Throwers, you have sprinters, you have jumpers, like the masters. It doesn't have a certain age cut off. You hear about basketball, football, soccer athletes, they're retiring at a certain age. Track and field, you can retire and then decide to come back and compete in the masters. So it's
Yep.
not like a shutdown for forever type thing. So
Yeah.
definitely.
It's an untapped market. I've found this year with Masters competitors, because I had
Mhm,
one guy get in touch with me, Dr. Jim, if you're listening in, Jim Baker. He's a hospice doctor on the East Coast, and he got
mhm,
in touch with me. And actually, he has roots out here, and he came
mhm,
out here. He said he used to jump. Dwight Stones used to try to teach him how to high jump when he was in high school. And they were
mhm,
high school together. So I'm aging you now, Dwight, but he he was he would call Jim over, and Jim was a distance runner, and he would be like, hey, come over here and try this, because he's relatively tall, and he's showing him a couple things. And now Jim gets in touch with me and goes, I'm 70 years old and I want to break the 70-year-old high jump record. And I'm like, get to work, man, let's go. So it's like it's so cool. Like you said, you've got different things going on. There's the Paralympian, I love watching them. Had an opportunity to work with a young Paralympic athlete just recently, and you talk about dedication and overcoming obstacles and things like that. It's just amazing. So there's so much going on in our sport, but it's just not promoted well enough. I'd like to see it be more prominent.
Yeah.
Well, hey, listen, Jonina, it's this has been a blast. We have to do this again. I'm running up against my time limits. But please, I want to extend the invitation to get you back on here. And now that you and I have talked our little bit of shop, I would love to do this again. I found some real gems. You, my buddy Mike Ashton, now the jumps coach at Utah Valley. You want to look up a guy doing some great work, and just again, these you young coaches with all this energy and putting your passion into these young athletes. It's just great, and I'm seeing the results and high energy. That's after I got done talking with Mike, I was like, I gotta go out and practice. I gotta, and you're getting me fired up. I'm gonna be 60 next year, and I still do just a little bit of demonstrating. Usually the bar's pretty low, but I can still get say, hey, drive your knee up, do this, do that. Next time maybe we'll talk about some more technique. I'm very curious to hear the two events that you picked are the two most technical, I think, the high jump and the triple, other than, I think the pole vault is incredibly technical. And when it comes to throwing, I think javelin first and possibly hammer is a real interesting one too. And that's that lends itself to what you said too, where, for the average person watching, and this is why I don't understand why it isn't done better. Because I'm a golf fan. I'm a golfer too. And if I can watch, and granted, golfing is boring. It is boring for most people to watch. I watch the Masters because it's beautiful, and I'm sure you're touch of that because you're from that area. But the Masters on TV is amazing, and it's an amazing golf course, and it's just the best golfers in the world. But the week-to-week tour grind, there's some nice courses and everything, but it's just like it's not that exciting to watch. But those guys in the truck, hey, cut to camera 4. This guy just chipped in for birdie. Hey, come over here. This guy just hit this monster drive over the water, landed in the fairway. And if they can make golf exciting doing that, how easy would it be to go to a meet? Because you and I both know if you're up at a track meet, there's like 20 things going on at once. There might be a buzz in the crowd because they're getting ready to finally run, the men's and women's 100 meters, or the relays coming up or whatever. But then while that's going on, you look over and here comes somebody running down the runway and they pole vault. And you look over here and there's somebody throwing a shot put. And then you see a javelin go over here. And then you see something, and you're like, and then there's already people running around the track, laps and laps, laps. It's like a 3-ring circus. And you need somebody that understands that and can package it, and go, hey, this should be easy, not difficult. I listen to the guys call those meets still, and they have these two announcers talking, and they're doing every lap of the 10,000 meters, and you're like, dude, really? You're gonna talk to me for 30 minutes?
Yes.
Can we cut to another event and then come back and go so and so leading?
Yes. Man, the favorite part is when you hear the clap going in the crowd and you're like, oh my goodness, please let me see the jump. And they're showing like the 10K, lap 5. And I'm like, please just go to the jump so we can see it. But no, definitely. One thing we did at my previous school was when we hosted a home meet, it was during the COVID area. And so we just kind of set up a bunch of different laptops and we focused it at each field event. So you can kind of click the different link and see what's going on, because I mean, the field events, you hear the clap. You know what's going on when someone start the clap.
Yeah.
You want to be a part of that memory. Like, let us just see it. So
Yeah.
definitely we have a lot to grow with it.
Well, I love it, Jonina. I love listening to you, your passion, your energy for it, and you have a ton of ideas. I would like to make you one of the new ambassadors for how to rectify everything that's wrong with our sport, because you're you definitely think outside the box, and it sounds like you have your way of getting things done. So let's do this again soon
Yeah.
if you can find the time. I really appreciate you taking time out from your busy day coaching those young athletes and sharing your energy and your passion and your knowledge with us.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for having me, and I would love to come back.
All right. Okay, Jonina, have a great day. Have fun training those guys. Keep them warm. I've only been up to Washington once, but I know it's still got to be cold up there. We just started getting heat down here, but I told this story once before. I went up for my Pac-10s my sophomore year, and it was at Washington State.
Mhm.
It was in May, and it was cold.
Yeah.
We were down here, and it was 85, and we went up there. It was just like it was 52 or something, gunmetal gray skies, and the sun came out of a hole in the clouds. And I'm not kidding. People started putting out lawn chairs and laying out on the front lawns. I was like, oh my gosh, I am in
Yeah.
another world.
Indeed.
All right. Well,
Def-
hey, take care. We'll talk soon. Thanks so much again.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, and that finishes up our visit with Jonina Brinson. She is the jumps coach at Eastern Washington University. Wow, what a great time. She's very personable, very knowledgeable, very creative, outside the box thinker. Seems like she has a way of getting her ideas done and get everything across to her athletes. And so, I would highly recommend following her if you get a minute on Instagram. Um, and I'll make sure I put her link up in the bio on the podcast. So interesting, creative, and a lot of energy. So thanks again to Jonina Brinson joining us today here on Raise the Bar. I'm your host, Troy Haynes, saying goodbye until next time. Remember to continue to raise that bar as you train, as you work, as you do what you do. We're always striving for better and higher. So keep raising the bar, and we'll talk soon. All right. Bye-bye.